Hello, hi, this is Frank. Thanks for coming back to see another episode of Domestic Theater. We actually shot this episode, or recorded this episode actually, a few months back, back when what we're talking about was more relevant. But animation took a while and some technical difficulties happened, so this episode is coming out a few months later, but we hope that the topics are still somewhat relevant, although outdated. And we added this extra animation, so this is extra work for the animator, which is the voice of me, Frank. Alright, well, without further ado, please enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Domestic Theater, a podcast where we discuss film, media, entertainment and culture. I am Major General Alan Iverson, and today I'm joined by...
I'm Cyberdroid.
Oh, hello there, I'm Vice Loco. Sorry, I was watching some Netflix on my phone. I would gladly show it to the audience, but I'm not allowed to.
And I'm Frank. Hello.
Yes, hello. Today we are talking about Netflix, specifically Netflix original films. I'm going to throw this over to my supine friend, so he can discuss the details of Netflix as a company, and I'm going to get into the details of Netflix original films themselves.
Alright, so I got this information off of Wikipedia, so here we go. So Netflix was established in 1997. Its main headquarters is in Los Gatos, which is a cat, in California. It is founded by Reed Hastings, and his network is $3.7 billion. He's as rich as anyone from Disney or Comcast. And they have around over 139 million subscribers.
Yes, and with a subscription cost of $7.99, which has gone up to $8.99, as I was rudely instructed when I logged into my Netflix today. That's over $1 billion of money to throw around for their operating expenses and original programming, as well as acquisition. And today we're talking about original programming, Netflix films, which are very controversial, which is good because this is an entertainment podcast. We have to keep things entertaining. Because of the dubious quality and the sort of pushback from traditional media, traditional film, not thinking that thinking they're like sort of the twisted leg, one-eyed bastard stepson you keep in like the sewer grate you don't talk about, you don't invite to your award shows, you don't let him get past primary school because what's the point of reading after a point if people scream when you run down the street, say, get that creature out of here, put it back in the shoebox, we don't want to see it, we don't want to see it. We can cut this part. This is going anywhere.
No, this is great. This is great.
No. Please.
No,
please.
No, we leave this in.
I get take two on that.
No, we leave this in.
I get to take two. I'm gonna.
We are having technical difficulties. Please.
I think Netflix has a very interesting place in the market. That's what I really want to talk about. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think about Netflix. What do you think its place is in film, and what you see its future being?
I think Hollywood is very scared of Netflix at the moment because they are a potential threat to their box office revenue because more people are staying at home and not going to the theaters as much as they used to. I do believe that the Netflix films do offer a very interesting viewpoint, but I think Hollywood is worried that mainstream media is their property, not Netflix's property.
I disagree! Strongly with your points. Respectfully disagree strongly with your points. So, modern traditional films I call either under 1 or over 100. And what I mean by that is everything is either under a $1 million budget or over $100 million. Okay. Netflix films range anywhere from $10 million to $50 million.
Right.
These are the mid-tier films we typically don't see anymore because they're not profitable, and Netflix has simply filled that void. So they're not threatening traditional Hollywood, you buffoon. They're simply taking over a type of film that is no longer offered. For example, Bird Box, I think, had a $20 million budget.
Yes.
Most other films, I think Velvet Buzzsaw had a $20 million budget, or maybe even less. The only film that was a blockbuster that was Netflix was Bright. That had, I think, a $90 or $100 million budget.
It was 90, yeah.
But they're taking on the sort of films that Hollywood won't make anymore. Either because they don't think they're profitable, or they're kind of quirky, or in some cases they might not be of the same Hollywood quality to make money, or they're just of a budget that isn't feasible. So Netflix has got a really interesting niche that's carved out, biting the rotted flesh off a carcass and enjoying it because of their strange organs.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with General Major Allen Iverson. So, when it comes to Netflix, their movies are not made for profit. They're made for just like regular, everyday, average Joe consumption. And like when it comes to like movies, they are more of a prestigious production, I believe. They are of a high quality demand. And granted, some films that are made by Netflix can be seen in theaters, like Roma, for example, it had a limited theater release, but only just because they wanted it in the Oscars for a nomination, but also because the director, Alfonso Cuarón,
Yep.
I said it right?
Yep.
Cuarón.
All right, cool. Because he campaigned to make sure that this film was noticed because he had a huge passion for it, and the level of technicality that went behind and passion that went behind this film is something that Netflix should never have acquired in the first place, to be honest. But because of that, Netflix, they got themselves one ace in the hole, but that is not going to be the film that will define them as a production company.
So I do agree that Netflix films have taken the hold of the mid-range film. I do agree with that. But I think the issue for Hollywood is, I think that they are nervous that Netflix will transition into blockbuster filmmaking. I think with more and more films coming out and with more and more subs being added to Netflix, I think Netflix is trying to reach that more prestigious kind of like mainstream blockbuster feel. And as you mentioned with Bright, I think Bright is an example of Hollywood trying to diminish the success of that film because that is their first kind of entry into the mainstream blockbuster genre. So I think what Hollywood is threatened by is not what Netflix is currently, but what Netflix could be.
I disagree strongly with your points. I think that if you look at where Netflix is going, they're going more into the prestige market.
Right.
You see films like the Meyerowitz stories, you see films like Okja, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, a Coen Brothers movie, which is typically a awards fair type film.
The Irishman coming out.
Exactly. They're going for films that are more prestigious than profitable, because Netflix films are films you watch at home, primarily. And so they can afford to be not as good because you're not going out into the cold or the heat, paying money for a ticket. They can be weird, they can be wacky. People aren't offended by them being bad because it doesn't feel like something's been taken away. And they can afford to be good and surprising and subversive. But I don't think it's a threat. I think it's completely different entities in the marketplace. I mean, Netflix films are worried primarily about retaining the subscriber base. You want to keep your subscriber numbers at what they are or raise them. It's not quite the same as having to match monetary goals. Hollywood needs to hit numbers, they have to beat marketing budgets. It's a completely different game. Yes, Coconut.
Oh, sorry. I can't stop watching Netflix on my phone. Yes, I agree. It's two completely different mediums in Hollywood.
What are you watching on your phone on Netflix?
Oh, I'm watching there's some buzz.
What did you say? I don't know if the mic picked that up.
He said some buzzsaw video.
Velvet Buzzsaw.
Velvet Buzzsaw.
That we are going to discuss today.
They're all the same. They're all merging into one another. I can't stop watching.
No. Give that a silence. Give that like a 30-second silence of just blinking animatronic heads. I don't know what your point was. I appreciate the energy and the effort.
My point was that I agree is that it's kind of two different type of things. When you're dealing with Hollywood, you're dealing with the type of market where it's like you have to come. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to talk in my voice local accent. I completely agree. When we're dealing with Hollywood, it's a lot different than when we're dealing with Netflix. When you're dealing with Netflix, you're talking about building subscribers. You're talking about building your fan base, as General Allen Iverson said. When you're dealing with Netflix, you're kind of dealing with people who are watching films at home and all that. When you're dealing with a theater, it's a lot different.
I disagree. I do think...
Well, I agree with him.
Right, but I disagree with the
I
both of
disagree
you.
with you.
Right.
I agree with him.
Alright, so if we're
Clearly, let's agree to disagree!
No, hold on. He's just an asshole.
No. Hold on 1 second.
BRB, watching Netflix.
Okay, So here's my issue. So I'm not saying this is wrong because I love Netflix movies a lot. I do. I think a lot of their films are quality films, but I think where I understand where Hollywood is coming from is that because of Netflix, people are more encouraged to stay at home as opposed to going to the theater and paying money for a ticket.
Well, I do disagree. It's not as a bit, but I think that the reason that Netflix is there, not because they are displacing Hollywood,
Right.
because Hollywood is failing and they're filling the gap.
Mm-hmm.
People are staying home because there aren't that many good films. I mean, there are actually a decent number of good smaller films and award films out. But
There's
for a
not.
long time, there were a lot of kind of duds out of the box office. Why would you go out to see a film if you have films to watch at home?
That's fair.
It's not about Netflix being the bad guy. It's about traditional Hollywood failing and Netflix filling up that void.
Yeah, okay.
And that's how the market works. We're not communists, are we? We're not communists. We're not making Russian films about submarines or Chinese mouse anthem films, are we? This is America. This is a nation built on the sweat of Adam Smith's economics.
Right?
Keynesian economics. Put up the Wikipedia page so people learn hyperlinks.
My goodness, Alan Iverson, calm yourself. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, come on, man, calm yourself. Why don't you sit down and watch some Netflix on your phone?
Alright. I'm confiscating your phone.
I do-
Vita, here.
I need my Netflix.
No, Vita.
I do
I
want
need my
to-
Netflix.
Vita.
Animate this. I need my Netflix.
I do want to just read off really quickly, just for the sake of our edification, some of the most highly rated in terms of critical acclaim Netflix films and some of the most panned Netflix films.
Okay.
Just so we get a picture. So the highest rated Netflix films aggregate are The Other Side of the Wind, which is the Orson Welles documentary. Film that he actually made. Roma, which you discussed. Okja, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs by the Coen Brothers. The Private Life, Meyerowitz Stories, Divines, Mudbound, and Beast of No Nations. Now, the ones that have been panned are the Adam Sandler films, The Do-Over, Father of the Year with Spade, what's his face?
David Spade.
David Spade, Game Over Man, The Kissing Booth, The Open House, How It Ends, Mute, and Cloverfield Paradox. So there is enough balance between the two, and again, because you watch Netflix at home, the films don't have to be as good because you lose less. Now, one of the things, unless somebody wants to jump in, that I wanted to talk about with Netflix films is visibility. Because they'll come up, they advertise their films on Netflix, they show up on the banner on the top of the website, and they disappear within a couple of days. You see a poster for, let's say, Polar, for example, and you're like, oh, Polar, they're advertising it all over the site, it's recommended everywhere, and then a week later, it's gone. In the box office, some films disappear, true, but films linger a lot more in the traditional market. So what I wanted to do was read off a list of Netflix films, starting from the early films in 2015 or 14, and if you've seen or heard of this film, say so. If you haven't, let's let the deafening silence speak for itself.
Okay.
All right? Beast of No Nations.
Yes.
Okay. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Sword of Destiny.
Yes.
Really? Okay. The Fundamentals of Caring.
Yes.
Yes. Wait, no, sorry. I'm just saying yes. Sorry.
No,
I know. I haven't seen it. I've heard of it. I haven't seen
Heard it. Okay. Rebirth.
No.
Tallulah.
Yes.
XOXO.
it. Yes.
Ark.
Oh, well, is that like
With a
with a K? Oh, no.
Siege of Jadotville.
No.
I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House.
I've seen it on my Netflix queue.
That's a movie title?
Yes, that's
Jesus
Yes, that's
the title.
What the?
I imagine it's based off some YA novel. Seven Anyos. Mercy. Spectral.
Yes.
I think I've heard of
Barry, not the HBO show, just a film called Barry.
I've seen it on my queue.
Coin Heist.
No.
Clinical.
No.
I Boy.
Yes.
Imperial Dreams.
No.
I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
Yes.
Really?
Burning Shange.
No.
Deidre and Lainey rob a train. The Most Hated Woman in America.
Yes.
The Discovery.
Yes.
Shandcastle.
No.
Tramps. Blame! Exclamation mark.
Yes.
Shimmer Lake. Okja.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the Bone.
Yes.
Death Note.
Yes.
First They Killed My Father.
Yes.
Gerald's Game.
Yes.
Yes.
Our Shows at Night.
Yes.
The Meyerowitz Stories.
Yes.
1922.
Yes.
The Wheel. Now, have you seen these films?
I've seen half of the films that you just mentioned.
Okay. All right.
Holyhood of
Wheelman.
No.
The Killer. Christmas Inheritance. Bright.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Open House. The Cloverfield Paradox.
Yes.
Yeah.
Irreplaceable You. This is going to be great radio. Mute.
Yes.
The Outsider.
Yes.
Yes.
Paradox.
Yes.
Roxanne. First Match. Six Balloons. Amateur.
Jesus
Come
Christ.
Sunday. Sometimes. Forgive Us Our Debts, Cargo, Lust Stories, Caliber, Tau, How It Ends, Extinction.
Yeah.
Okay, The Most Assassinated Woman in the World.
No.
Next Gen, not Star Trek. On My Skin, The Land of Steady Habits, Hold the Dark, Private Life, 22 July.
Yes.
Okay, Apostle,
Yes.
The Night Comes for Us.
Yes.
Been So Long, The Other Side of the Wind, Outlaw King,
Yes.
Cam, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs,
Yes.
Mowgli,
Yes.
Yes.
Roma,
Yes.
Yes.
Bird Box,
Yes.
Io,
Yes.
Shoni, Polar,
Yes.
Velvet Buzzsaw,
Yes.
and High Flying Bird. All right, so you guys surprised me. I thought it would be maybe a quarter, but it seemed like you'd heard of half and maybe seen a quarter.
So all the ones that I've said yes to, I would say a good half of them I've actually seen.
Okay, so that's I mean we are film people, but that somewhat refutes my hypothesis. But my point was that these films are less known than I'd say the average lineup of blockbuster films.
Right.
At least it appears that way or feels that way. Though again, you surprised me. There's a decent number there you did know. So good little boys. Have some dates or something with coconuts.
How do you know that we are film people? I thought that we were just a bunch of quirky animated characters doing this podcast.
Okay, we're cutting that. So,
No, let him contribute. Jesus.
Yeah, you haven't said shit, so I guess.
Yeah, I want to say I really do like you're watching Netflix on your phone.
anyway, yeah, it seems like they just chose those titles that I didn't know because it sounded like a good title, but I think they're all shitty movie titles.
You don't like the Land of Steady Habits as a film title?
No, that sounds like a piece of shit film.
It doesn't tickle your wickle?
I mean, it could be good, but like that title is not gonna make me click on it.
I think too, though, the thing that is again different about Netflix is the algorithm, and the things that you see are based on your preferences and your likes. So there might be people out there who are, because the algorithm decided that people liked a certain thing, they made the Land of Steady Habits. Like for example, it's a bad example because obviously he's facing charges, but they made House of Cards based on the algorithm. People like politics and people like Kevin Spacey. Back then, they liked Kevin Spacey. So let's literally just take those two elements and make a film. And things...
Show.
Show. My apologies. Thank you. Embarrassing me for my friends. But there are other films here that might just be sort of generated. And that's the thing that's kind of worrisome, that maybe the traditional film industry is bucking against, is some of these films are kind of made in a test tube.
Right.
They're soulless because they're just meant to please. You take element X and element Y and you put them together because 40% of your male viewers liked gunfights and cars, so you make your gunfight car movie.
Right.
Which kind of feels like what Polar might have been a little bit, that it was trying to fill what people liked.
Yeah. I agree with
I
that.
think that's something to be aware of.
But, so I do want to talk about how critics perceive a lot of these films. You mentioned a lot of those reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm assuming that's the site that you used.
No, I use an aggregator just between different articles that had listed,
Okay.
just general Google search. But you could probably say that these are all the highest rated in terms of...
And lowest rated.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
So I do have an issue with some of these critiques, like for example, Bright, which I personally enjoyed.
I enjoyed it.
But critics, including IndieWire, have called that film the worst film of 2017, which I think a lot of the criticism against Bright are a little bit too harsh. And I think, I don't know where exactly that comes from, but I do think that there is a bit, like, not to be like a conspiracy nut, but it does feel as if these Hollywood critics are kind of like targeting these smaller Netflix films because of the threat that they kind of pose.
No, it's okay. Be a conspiracy nut. Please, be a conspiracy nut.
Thanks for that interlude. I've heard that. I don't know if that's substantiated because, again, people only hear the bad. They hear about all the Netflix films getting panned. But we listed a bunch of Netflix films that are highly regarded.
Yeah.
Meyerowitz Stories, Roma. Mm-hmm. So there's enough on both sides. I just think that people yell more loudly about the bad ones because Netflix is the thing to talk about.
So I want to ask you about Okja, because I like that film. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's a generally good film. But at the Cannes Film Festival premiere of Okja, right when the Netflix film logo was shown in the beginning of the film, they booed it instantly. So I want to ask you, what is that reaction from the film community at that stage? Because that movie was about 3 years ago, probably?
Well, yeah, but it's taxi drivers in New York City getting upset about Uber.
Right.
I mean, and Uber might be bad in some ways, might be good in some ways. Netflix might be bad or good in some ways, but people don't like what displaces them, what they think displaces them,
right?
But the future might be.
So that's what I mean about how Hollywood perceives them. I'm not saying like it's a bad thing, but I'm saying like how Hollywood perceives Netflix. Like it's
Sure.
almost like a threat to how they create movies in their like conveyor belt of like how they just keep popping these out.
Yeah, so I think one of the big reasons why it's like Netflix is like the fast food of entertainment. It's cheap to get, arguably made, and it's cheap to like produce massively, and like it tastes good. It's a good film, but compared to Hollywood, with its arguably overpriced, very expensive to make, people will pay to see that, and whether it's bad or not. But I think just because Netflix is like it's seen as just a mass distributor of things, it doesn't seem fair for them to be in a festival compared to some like indie filmmaker or someone that actually like cares about filmmaking with this company. Other companies like do have their films in there, but like
Now, I actually really like your fast food analogy, and that reminded me of something that I kind of noticed, because I watched a couple of Netflix films that I want to go into specifics about. All the Netflix films I've watched, and I've watched more than those three, have never made me feel strongly. Like you go to a film and you can hate it in the theater. You hate it. You have a visceral reaction, or you love it, and there are films in the middle, but there hasn't been a Netflix film yet, and I haven't seen Roma, out of fairness, that has made me feel strong like or dislike. They've all been on a scale of like 4 to 7.
I agree.
And that sort of speaks to that easy entertainment that I think people are balking at.
I wonder if we're in a period of time where now Netflix is more commercial, it's more like universal, everyone's watching it, so maybe it's possible that their luster has gone down a little bit. Now it's about like, we need to make stuff that's like, John from, Tennessee.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, exactly, Milwaukee, to reference a previous episode.
We can't lose subscribers, so they have to keep interest. They always
Exactly, just like we can't lose subscribers, hence Milwaukee.
I think they're prioritizing their TV shows. Their TV shows are clearly, I think, their main goal is to focus on creating more and more quality TV shows like Stranger Things, and back then it was House of Cards, Black Mirror, and just kind of keep that just conveyor belt going. But I'm not to delve too much into this, but I think Bright was a good stepping stone for Netflix in terms of them kind of branching out into more bigger territory, and they have plans to be more ambitious. I think they've greenlit a new Last Airbender show that's coming out, and they've greenlit more other projects. I think they greenlit a Zack Snyder action film for $100 million budget. So they are branching out into like bigger territories. So I think this is a good step for them. But I'm worried about how critics are perceiving these films, because I don't think, as you said, like I think they're out of touch with what Netflix is and what they stand for, and how people are consuming Netflix. I think they're judging them a bit too harshly, in my opinion.
Alright guys, so the great Steven Spielberg once said about Netflix, once you commit to a television format, you're a TV movie. You certainly, if it's a good show, deserves an Emmy, but not an Oscar. And with that quote about Netflix and the way that they make films and productions in general, I think that if Netflix wants to get up there, not only with a movie, but they need to distribute it into theaters if they want that high kind of caliber, because a movie experience, like if you want to take it to the Oscars, for example, you have to, it's not just about, the Oscars are about like movies, but also about like the movie experience. Mm-hmm. Like in the theater where it's darkly lit and there's a big screen, there's an audience, there's strangers you don't know what could happen, somebody could pull out anyways, like Netflix, it's watching Netflix at home is kind of tedious. But when you go to a theater, it's more of an escapism, and I think that is overall that will justify a critic's score more because they saw it in the theater compared to watching it on their couch.
Just real quick, I saw Bright at the theaters, and it was a much better experience.
Yeah, so the big question is Netflix films, disruption or disaster? And I think that's where we're going to leave it. This has been Domestic Theater. I am Major General Alan Iverson.
Huh, my phone died. My phone died! My phone f***ing died! Oh my god! Oh! What the f***? How am I gonna watch the latest f***ing Avatar reboot? Oh, let's reboot every f***ing series imaginable! How the f*** I was watching? Anybody got Netflix? I need Netflix now!
So, I've been Major General Alan Iverson.
I'm Cyberdroid.
I've been Vital Loco.
And I'm Frank.
And we wish you good night or morning or whatever time it is.